Hey y'all, thanks for joining us for another episode of 911 Delta Tethered for Life. This podcast may not be suitable to all listeners due to language and subject matters. Please listen with care. All right, whenever you're ready.
All right. Hey, y'all. Welcome to another episode of 911 Delta Tethered for Life podcast. We're your hosts, Casey and Anna. Tonight, we're continuing the chaos from last week's episode, Managing the Chaos. So grab those headsets. Let's talk. So, Bug, before we recap and continue, what'd you do this week, or how was your week?
Well, my kids were sick, so that was not cool.
I don't even know why I asked you anymore.
Right? I've been stuck in the house. So that kind of sucked. We watched the Super Bowl at home, which is fine.
Yeah.
And yeah, nothing really exciting. How about you?
Same stuff. Nothing exciting either. We did watch Super Bowl, and then did you see today on the news actually about them having the shooting at the Super Bowl parade?
I did see that.
Like,
Yes.
what the hell? I still don't really know what the hell, like what that was all about, but
Yeah, I don't know. And the news reports I saw kind of looked like maybe it wasn't really at the thing. It was just
okay,
near
it's just
it.
in the area.
It was
Okay.
just criminals being criminals at, a bad time, which,
Yeah,
who would have guessed?
bad
Like,
timing for sure.
but criminals are criminals, so whatever.
Yeah, they don't care.
No. Yeah, so I mean, you were excited because
Yeah.
team there.
Yes, indeed. Although he acted a little foolish, but that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt bad for my brother. I didn't he was working that night and I didn't actually want to text him because I wasn't sure. Like I was kind of hoping that they were busy and he was running calls so he didn't have to watch that because he's a 49ers fan.
Oh, yeah, that wouldn't have been good.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was like, I want to send him a message and then I'm like, no.
So we'll see what next year brings.
That is true. And I laughed one of my dispatcher friends who I have known for a long time, we worked part-time together a couple of times. And he is hilarious. He is a huge Cowboys fan.
Ugh.
And I was once a dedicated Cowboys fan too, but Jerry Jones has ruined that for me. So, he posted a funny meme about like them not ever making it or, in however many years to Super Bowl. And I was like, well, Romo finally made it since he was one of the commentators. And he's not one of my favorite people, so
Yeah, he's annoying
about that. But so I know, and I haven't, ever since I then kind of became a Saints fan because I really like Drew Brees, but now he doesn't play anymore, and
yeah,
so I'm kind of lost. I'm just kind of with my Navy football, and that's it. I
yeah,
just pick a team whenever we watch a game and in the NFL and be like, okay, that's
yeah.
my team for today.
I'm sticking with the Chiefs, I suppose, but not for any really good reason.
Yeah, I mean, I like Kelsey. But I just can't. Mahomes,
Yeah. Well, his wife does it for me. Like she is so annoying. But anyway.
yeah. But we think most other women, I should say girls, are annoying anyway. So,
Yeah, that's true.
you know,
I pretty much think anybody and everybody's annoying. So, and that's okay.
hashtag dispatch life.
That's right. That kind of is what happens.
Well, I think anybody's annoying as long as you're a human.
Yeah, for sure.
Funny. All right. So let's see. Last week we talked about managing the chaos, and receiving multiple calls or handling multiple incidents and how to deal with that. And then we shared some successful teamwork stories.
Yes.
So I hope you guys found that helpful. And this week we're back at it. We're going to tell you what to do after you deal with that shit show. How do you deal with your own shit show?
Yes, for sure. And before we get into that, like I think the important thing too to remember, if you're really thinking about becoming a dispatcher, is it's got to be for the right reasons. And we've talked about a lot of different things last week, and multitasking and the high stress, all that is just tiny pieces of what goes on throughout the shifts. And so the right reason, it's not because you want to be Miss Nosy Ass. You got to do it because you truly want to help the citizens and be the backbone, the lifeline for the officers and the fire rescue folks. And you have to be ready to sacrifice your family time, holidays, your sleep, your mental health. It's not a career for the weak at all. And so that I just wanted to throw that in there before we start into the aftermath of the crap that goes down.
Yeah, it's definitely not a career for the weak, and you will sacrifice some of those things
Yes.
at any given time, but you shouldn't sacrifice them all of the time, right? So you definitely have to have some good boundaries. And you kind of do have to be a nosy ass. Like, I
Yeah.
remember not that long ago, I saw a meme that was actually aimed towards law enforcement and like, no, like I'm not gonna tell y'all anything because y'all the nosiest MFers out there. And I'm like, no, you've never talked to a dispatcher then because like
Well, I mean, we do get paid to be nosy, obviously, but don't let that be the only reason,
right.
know.
It's not actually the officer that is finding all that information out on you, it's us. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and we are the ones stalking your Facebook and all that too, because we're gonna find
And I
out. And
still do that bullshit.
oh yeah.
I mean, it's just like my kids still to this day are like, oh my God, that's why I don't tell you nothing. I'm like, well,
Well, whatever.
don't get out of that
What it is.
lifestyle, that's for sure.
Exactly.
So after all this mess
So after all this mess,
dies
we
down,
yeah. There are
prob-
so many techniques out there to manage stress, right? And there are breathing techniques. You can Google them. YouTube is a great place actually, because you can find a lot of stuff. You can actually watch people doing it.
Mhm.
There's so many different types. I always feel like figure out what works for you and don't feel silly about like finding something. Um, because breathing techniques, there's something called endo tapping. If you don't know what that is, it's also called EFT. Um, those are things that you can do like sort of on the down low, like you don't have to be real obvious about them. And they can just kind of help reset your nervous system when you've gotten a little frazzled. Also, just taking a drink, like no, not alcohol, like just from your water bottle or one of the other six beverages that I know you have sitting on your console,
Mhm.
because that actually helps, right? Just that act of swallowing is actually a reset. So those are really just helpful small things that you can do. And then getting up when you need to get up and, leaving for a minute, a couple minutes, whatever. Obviously, everybody can't do it at the same time,
Right.
but, just being mindful. And what really helped me was starting to notice when things bother you. Like, is it that frequent annoying caller that gets on your nerves? Is it the baby emergencies? Is it the angry caller? What is your trigger?
Mhm.
Happy word today, but you know, what sets you off, right? And just kind of keep track of it. Even if you have a little notebook journal or something, or you keep it in your phone, right? And just notice that pattern and go, oh, for me, it was like the stupid angry caller, right? That's calling about nothing important, but they're still pissed off.
Right.
I have no tolerance for that. Like, that's just stupid. And so for me, like, that's when I need to kind of be like, okay, they can't help being stupid. It's not something you can fix. You just,
Right.
it's terrible, but it's like you have to start noticing what is happening with you and figure out what's right for you to do in the moment. And obviously, if you can't figure it out or you're having a hard time, work with a professional. There are people out there that specialize in public safety. There's lots of groups out there, public safety and military specialists. Because I know people have told me, like, I feel like I'm traumatizing the therapist. Right. So you got to find somebody who, it
It's
specializes in that
right.
kind of stuff so that you don't feel that way.
We're actually working towards having a special guest in that
Yes.
field,
Yeah.
so that'll be coming up.
And yeah, I mean, because you have to do what works for you and what you need to do to like just offload that adrenaline or that stress that you build up. And if you're in a situation where the call volume is not allowing you to get up, like the breathing or tapping techniques can help even while you're talking on the phone. There's points that you can tap like on your wrist or on your head, like just and it sounds silly, but it is helpful. If you've got a long 12 hours at the end of your shift, however long it is busy, and you don't have that time, then no, when I get off shift, I may have to go for a walk or I may have to go
Yep.
talk to somebody. Or if you're a gym person, go to the gym. If you need to dance around your house naked to the usher,
Hot dog.
do what you got to do.
Now you're
But
talking.
right, but keep your blinds closed because nobody wants to see that, really.
Well, I will
Uh,
say I used to doodle. If someone was like
yes.
really starting to irritate me, I would just doodle and doodle
Mm.
until they finally shut the hell up and
Yep. Yep. Yep.
and so that kept me kind of where I needed to be. But I never actually really, I guess, really thought about or even let things bother me as much in the beginning of my career. But now that I'm out of it and seeing a counselor and stuff, the breathing technique, I would have told you, yeah, whatever, you're freaking crazy. Like, it does not help. I'm not going to look stupid doing that, but it really does. And I don't
Right.
have much like issue right now, as much as I did, but if I do feel like anxious, it really does help. Kind of
Yeah.
reels you back in. But yeah, doodling was a big thing for me. And I actually journal now, which if I had thought about these things
Right. And
back
I think,
then, I'd probably be better off now.
right. I
But
mean, same thing. Like, I didn't start thinking about it until later on. That's again, something that you're not taught.
yeah,
And even I've been to several dispatcher stress courses. I have been to, at the conferences and symposiums, and I feel like it's always the same information and it's never been helpful. Like,
hmm
and then, for a long time with what they call critical incidents, there was the critical incident stress management and the stress debriefings. And they've kind of gone away from that because they've found that they're not that effective. And
right.
I'm not a huge fan of group debriefings either, because for some people, it's going to allow them, to brainstorm and think of ways to improve. But other people, it's gonna like lead them down this rabbit hole of how I screwed it up
Right.
and how I failed. And that's just not the kind of feedback that people need. And and that's very individual. Like some people are going to take it that way and some people are not. So you can't, say we're doing this for the good of everybody because it may not be for the good of everybody. So I think if they're voluntary, that's fine. If that's
Hmm.
your thing, go. But if that's not your thing, then don't go. A lot for me, a lot of times it's not even the feeling of like that I failed or going down that rabbit hole. I just don't like hearing people bitch.
Yeah, because you hear that enough.
Right. It's like I
You
feel
know,
like
so
taking calls, we do that enough. Like I don't,
yeah.
like, and especially if it's people, depending on how your leadership treats it, right? And sometimes it's not your leadership, like comm center leadership, it's law enforcement leadership or fire rescue
Hmm.
leadership, depending on, where the incident or, did it involve both agencies? It may be multi-agency. And so whoever leads it, you don't know how that person's
Right.
going to do it. And I just, not my thing. Um, but I am a huge fan of self-care
Yes.
and talking it out with someone, right? Whether, that's you and me or, you know, me and my spouse, because we both know how fucked up it is.
Right.
Um, but whatever. I think you really do have to take that time and figure out what works for you
For sure.
and do it.
And I would say do it early on. Don't wait
Yes.
years down the road. And
Right. Right. Start early, start researching it early, start, you know,
because it's going to happen.
yes.
Shit is going to really get to you eventually.
Yes. Yes. And I do think like things like QA can be helpful if they're done right.
Yeah.
And for me that means not only addressing the calls that people needed help on or they screwed up, like it's also addressing the calls that they rocked out and letting them know that, and also doing evaluations in person
Yes.
so that people can ask questions and you can give them one-on-one feedback, and it's not like, a piece of paper in your mailbox, because that's BS. If it's somebody who is good in the leadership role and they have a different perspective and they can bring that and not make somebody feel attacked, that's what you need,
Yes.
right? Unfortunately, I saw a post on the gram recently about and I forget what the actual statistic was, but like lots of stress in the public safety world comes from poor leadership. I think that's so
Shocker.
true,
I
right?
agree
I
with
mean,
that. Yes. And it's funny because, I mean, some of those folks are or have been in the field for a long time as like dispatchers themselves and have moved up, or, you know, their spouses or family, they've been in the public safety world for a long time. And so you would think they would understand how this shit works. And
as Matt always says, like there are, good firemen that will never be good leaders,
yeah,
and good paramedics, that will never be good leaders. He's got a friend, for instance, who is a good firefighter. He's a good medic. He works in a big agency, so, it's not like leadership roles are thrust upon him, and that's cool. And we have another friend who is an awesome fireman, is a good leader, uh, for, but it would not necessarily be like a good command staff type person, right? Like that's just not his thing.
yeah,
He wouldn't want to do that. So knowing your limitations is important. I think when you have somebody in a leadership position who, like, you realize their limitations and either they don't or they just don't know how to acknowledge the fact that they have limitations, having that sense yourself and not taking that personally. It's another thing that you can't take personally. And hopefully they will learn. And if not, well then, I don't know. Request a shift transfer. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
right.
know. Yeah, it's more important that you take care of yourself and you don't dwell on the limitations of other people, either
Right.
in your leadership, shift mates, you know. And it's really important, I think, one of the things that when we had our best shift, our old D shift, was we all knew what our strengths were.
Mhm.
And even though we took on different tasks, I dispatched patrol sometimes. And you did fire. We knew if the shit hit the fan, we could switch
Yep.
in a heartbeat. And our supervisor would have been okay with that. And we would have all rolled on and we would have gotten it done. Like we all
Yep.
knew where our strong points were and where our weak points were to really
With
be
like 4 people. A lot of
right.
nights we worked with 4 people.
Right. Right. We had five at one point.
And we
Um,
still rocked it out.
right. Right. But if we only had four, we could because we knew.
Yep.
And nobody took it like Daisy. She didn't she really needs to come on here
She
because
does.
she
She
always
needs to
has some
defend
opinions,
herself.
but then she doesn't want to come on, right?
Hmm.
But she was an awesome call taker. She always has been, but back then, like that was her primary thing.
Hmm.
And she could get people on and off the phone and like get the information. And she never was like, well, I answered the phone 59 times and y'all
Right.
answered it three, that was never a thing.
She
So
would click that little button though, that hang up button 5,000 times. I can just hear it now. What does she say? Cheese and rice or
cheese
something
and
like that.
rice.
She always shit
Cheese
that
and
Boob comes
rice.
up with.
Yes. Uh, I laughed so hard because I had a friend in college, her mom used to always say that. Like her mom never swore, she always said cheese and rice. She had all these funny ones. And I'm like, oh my God. And when I heard Daisy saying that, I just died. I'm like, oh God.
Well, a lady at work now, she says, "What in the cat hair?" And I'm like, "What?"
What in the cat?
And it is so funny. And it's like she doesn't say it often, but when she does, I'm like, "Wait, what?"
Oh, that is funny.
I'd never heard that one before. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
I grew up in a sailor's house. We didn't have any of this.
right, it was just the F word, and that
Oh,
was it.
right. And I laughed though because my kids, like, what I don't know what this thing is. And my sister-in-law told me about this when her son was probably about the age that Maverick is now, that they watch other people playing video games on the YouTube.
Hmm.
I don't, but I find myself getting sucked into it too. Like
Well, damn, maybe we're in the wrong
I
business.
know. And so a lot of these YouTubers, like they say funny stuff like what the flip? They say sussy.
Yeah, I've
So
never, that's a
that time
new
you
one.
got a suspicious
Yeah,
person, you can keep on the radio and say sussy. I mean, I guess that's better than, because that's not what they hear out of my mouth. So maybe it's a good thing that, the YouTubers are setting a good example for me. What the flip? Okay.
well, I've been saying flickety fluck or something at work, so I'm trying not to say fuck so much.
I would
And
screw
so,
that all up. That would not work for
yeah,
me.
I get frustrated. And so, fluck has been the go-to word, but yeah, it's not going
Oh
to last
yeah.
because I'm like,
Right.
I get so tongue-tied and I get pissed. So,
Right. And
yeah.
then,
So,
right, that would just bring out more F-bombs.
yes.
Exactly.
Yes, indeed. Back to when you
Yes.
said that like the self-care, knowing your boundaries and stuff, like if you don't start that early and you don't do that stuff, then you're not going to be any good to not only yourself, but to everyone else that's in the center or calling or so it's a lot of things. I just want to throw that in there because I was going to say it a minute ago, but
Cool. Right. And then eventually your family, like
Yeah.
gonna spill over.
So it's really important. That's something I didn't do either for a really long time. And I wish I knew, like, what's that Toby Keith song? I wish I knew now what I didn't. I don't know what the hell. But
Oh
anyways, that's,
yes. I
but,
wish
or
yeah.
maybe I don't know. But where I'm
You
trying to go with
wish
that
that
is,
you knew then what you know now.
yes, that's it. Phew, thank
Yes,
you, man.
me too. The the other thing is that, I feel like when you look up post-traumatic stress, for instance, you get a lot of the same crap as far as these are symptoms and things that you may experience. In my experience, those things are happening way down the line. Like by the time you're having flashbacks, nightmares, drugs or alcohol abuse, promiscuous behavior, like things like that, you should have addressed something a long time ago.
Right,
But the problem with what happens to your brain is that the frontal lobe that makes you a human being basically shuts down. So when you start to notice that your memory is not that great, and I know like we're all getting older and we're all stressed out and we all forget stuff. But when you really start to like you're at work and you're having a challenge with something that is a normal task, or at home, if you can't do, again, a simple task really causes you to stop and think, like that's when you need to start thinking about, okay, now is when I need to start addressing my nervous system because it's not working properly.
right.
And it's little things like that, do you feel like you get angry more quickly or do you get depressed more quickly? Because in different people, it's different things. It's not the same thing in everyone. So that's why it's important to keep track of your own feelings, your own triggers, and notice, like, after I work 3 days in a row, I am X, Y, and Z. And, the next time I work 3 days in a row, it's the same thing. Oh, okay. So I need more rest after I work 3 days in a row,
Hmm.
and maybe don't schedule myself to be on call the fourth day, whatever. But really,
Yeah, say no. Like, don't
yes,
always just,
they,
don't feel
they
bad. The ship will run without you, trust me.
It will. It will. And even now, I mean, I still feel bad if I can't help out when they need it. Like I feel
Yeah,
bad, but I have to take
but
care of little people and
yeah,
and animals. So I gotta you have to sort of know your limitations and
yep.
know your brain and your body's limitations. And don't be afraid to set that boundary and say no and really be honest with yourself about what the backlash of that is going to be. Like, if it's just going to be that somebody is going to get their feelings hurt,
They'll get over
right. Or they
it. I
won't.
mean,
Who
and
gives
who
a shit?
gives a fuck?
Right. Know your state's employment laws, right? Like, there's only so much that can be done. Like, they
Hmm.
can't force you to work over a certain number of hours. They can't force you to do XYZ. So know that, but don't feel bad for somebody else's bad feelings. Like
Right.
that's their problem. And
And if they are good management, then maybe they would or could sit in, knowing that these people have been working a lot of overtime or whatever and on call stuff. And there's nothing wrong with them, you know, coming in and sitting in the chair and putting in a couple hours. I mean, it's not only good for morale, in my opinion, like to see your supervise, like the higher up folks,
oh yeah.
doing it. And I mean, I don't know, it just sets,
It does. It sets a tone. Like I can come
yeah,
in and I can do this. We've had that happen, and people like, this is a new cat. I don't exactly know what's happening, but I'm gonna make it work.
I mean,
Or people who dispatched a long time ago and they haven't dispatched in a while, and they like it gets
it's
busy
kind of
and they
like riding a bike, and if it does get busy, the other
right.
folks are going to pick you up the slack. So even if
But
it's an
there's also,
hour.
yeah, and there's also people though, and I found this like just talking to my husband, like there are people that don't like they don't want that. They don't want the leadership to come in and like, in that world, fire EMS, run calls like, oh my
Right.
God. And it's like, why not?
But it's also the same fuckers that bitch that they don't
Exactly.
see stuff, but then when they try or they do, it's like, well,
Right.
God, we don't want them here. Well, make up your
Right.
fucking mind. Shut the
Or
hell
they
up.
bitch, oh, they don't, yeah, they bitch, oh, they don't, they don't understand what we do down here at the, on the street and da 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 da.
Well,
Well,
all the more reason for them to be in the truck or whatever.
right. I used to
Tell them
laugh
about it.
when Matt was the EMS supervisor in his deputy chief. He was a medic, and so he had to like run so many hours on the ambulance to keep
Hmm.
up his ALS incentive. They would, plan it to work together. Um, and I'm like, the thought of you two ding dongs who have not consistently ridden an ambulance for, you know, Matt not as long as his deputy chief. And the fact that they're both just hilarious was like the people, I don't know, they're either gonna hate you or they're gonna want you to come back just for the comedic relief of the whole situation because like I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
But like that was something they planned to do. At the end of the day, it is a demanding career, but it can be rewarding.
Most definitely.
And we should be helping each other out. Dispatchers everywhere. We should be our own support group. So I think that's basically my advice we talked about last week. Keep your keep your own shit together. Worry about yourself. If you see a coworker struggling, I think it's always a good idea to, if it's somebody you feel like you can to talk to them or let the supervisor know, let somebody know because the person themselves may not even notice that they're struggling, but do it in a compassionate way. Like,
Yeah.
you're not throwing somebody under the bus. You're like, hey, I think somebody is struggling. I've noticed XYZ. And that could possibly save somebody's life. So
Yeah.
just,
Because more times out of not, they're either gonna be in denial and won't ever say anything or think that it's just normal. And nothing about this job is normal.
is normal, right? So, yeah. So don't be afraid to speak up and say something as long as it's not shitty.
Right.
Just make sure you're doing it from a place of actual compassion and concern and not being a jerk. And sometimes we
Yeah.
do make our sarcastic comments because that's what we do.
Well, and
Um,
if it were like our original shift, then yes, we could handle that, but not everybody is
well, that's
us.
true, and you have to know your audience too, right?
So,
We
I mean, you could be like, Casey, what the fuck is your problem? Why are you being a bitch? Well, obviously, I'd laugh and be like, I don't fucking know why. But not everybody would take that as, so,
right,
um,
right, and you may not take it as well from another person, right?
but also know like you gotta have an open mind in this career. Like, if anything offends you, don't, don't be a dispatcher because you'll never make it, and that is a promise. You won't. But
Yes,
it's a
and it
very
needs to be
rewarding
offended.
job. Like, and I'm not going to say that I miss it per se now that I'm out of it, but I've said it before. I would never change. Like, it's made me who I am. Sometimes when I hear things popping off at work, I'm like, damn. Now, not so much on the fire radio because that was never my thing. Um, but um, but if something's going down, I'm like, oh man, yeah, I remember that. But that's why we also have this podcast too, because even if we don't get too much out of it ourselves, which I have a blast every time we do it, but if we're just can hit one or two people with something that might be going on, or
Difference
that's
or
all that matters. That was the
helping
whole
anyway.
point. And we are going to get Boob on here and
Yes,
Nitro. And
dude.
I am
For
working
sure.
on Hep. Hep's
Speaking
going to be
of,
on here
yeah,
too.
speaking of being offended, oh my God, that one time when old Nitro told somebody that there was going to be a firearm in the residence, and that officer responded, well, with everybody out here has those. And we all thought it was really funny. And he is actually the nicest human probably ever. And just sweet as he can be. And he did not mean it in the sarcastic, bitchy way that we would have meant it. Um, so we thought it was hilarious. She did not think it was hilarious. And then he actually came in and apologized to her, and we were like, "Are you kidding? Don't apologize to her. She needs to toughen up, boy."
What she did eventually, yeah.
She did. That was pretty funny, though.
Toughen up.
I mean, he
Yeah.
wasn't wrong.
No, that is true.
Oh, but oh my God, yes. Speaking of, but you know, had that been somebody who was not as mature
hmm
as Nitro and not as probably into the sick humor, and well, and being married to her own cop was probably
Yeah.
helpful too, but she might not have taken our heightened level of sarcasm so well.
And now that we're all best friends, like she just doesn't even pay us anymore.
No, no, no.
She knows what our mouths are the danger zone. You
Right.
just
She's
never
even given
know
up on
what
the F-bomb correction. She's
she
like,
has. Yep.
y'all are a lost cause.
She don't even try anymore.
No. So hopefully in your dispatching life, you can find friends like that and
Yes.
be able to share your craziness. And
Even after you all retire.
even after, yes, exactly.
Yep. Which reminds me, we still got to plan our trip to Nitro's house in Florida.
We do. We
We
do.
really got to do that. Whether
Yeah.
Boob's on board or not. Boob, get it together.
Although now she saw that France picture, she might get jealous.
Yeah, that's true. Yes, indeed. Well,
Oh,
I guess do you have anything else to add for this go round?
don't think that I do. But if you guys have anything else that you want to talk about, like I said, we're thinking about doing at least one episode. It's an episode.
Episode. What are you, Mike
Wow.
Tyson? What the fuck? Mike Tyson on my ass.
It's like an S on the radio. Um,
Like that's Anne. Suspicious.
Unky.
It's like, yeah, take your foot off the pedal. Oh my God. That was one time, guys, that
Right.
multitasking was not a thing.
No, no.
Oh, it
So,
was great.
so yeah, so doing an episode a month strictly on mental health, right?
Mhm.
So, yes, if there's anything you guys want to talk about, questions, we are prepping an actual doctor,
Yes.
psychologist doctor to come on and talk to us. If you guys have any questions, have anything that you really want to talk about,
And she does do a lot of public safety
yes,
for
public safety and
folks.
military.
So, yeah.
Has
So,
specialized in that for some time. Her husband's also retired law enforcement.
so any questions, just
Yeah,
let us know because it's going to be coming up here soon. And we're
yeah,
still looking
email
for
us.
guests if you want to be guests.
Yeah, if you have anything you want to talk about too on your own, come on, and we would love to hear from you.
Yeah, especially trying to get some folks like across the states here, like reach I would really like to hear from other jurisdictions, like in other states, just to see how things are. Come on, yo. The one time you can talk, let's talk. Like,
All right. Open
so,
forum.
that's right. And I didn't wish you happy Valentine's.
Oh, that's right. Happy Valentine's. We are recording this on
Thanks.
Valentine's Day. We're a little bit late on our recording this week, so
Yeah, but we got it done.
we got it done.
Yep,
And
indeed.
I don't think we've decided what we're going to talk about next week.
No, I think that's still up in the air because I am trying to get HEP on here. But we had discussed a little bit that we might get together at the conference too.
Maybe we can do like a live or something like that.
Even maybe little snippets of shit that's going down at the fire conference.
Yeah, the Fire Chiefs Conference.
Keep listening, guys. All platforms.
Yes. Oh, and shout out to those we talked about a little bit earlier, but shout out to the Kansas City dispatchers today.
Yes, indeed.
They had that shooting.
Ugh, it's awful.
And I heard that it was rocked out. I did not listen, but I heard that it was rocked out. So shout out to you guys.
Awesome. Comm Week's coming up too, so I
Right.
need to start talking about ideas for that too, like what goes down in these other comm centers.
That's right.
Curious to know. So yeah. All right, guys. Well, enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.